Okay then gang, so Bootstrap 5 provides us with an increased amount of utility classes to change things like position, spacing, shadow, border, border radius, font weight, etc. on any elements, and you can find a full list of all of the utility classes right here on the utility section of the docs, and in fact we've already seen a couple of them in action for the front colors and the font weights. Let's take a look at a few more examples in our page. Okay, so there's a few different utility classes I want to show you, so I've split this page up into sections. First of all, we'll look at margin and padding, then borders, then box shadow, and then final font weight, and this is not going to be a full set of utility classes I'm going to show you here and just kind of introducing you to them but we will probably use more of them that are not here in the future in the rest of this series. Alright then, so let's start off with margin and padding, and these are the ones that I probably use most often just to give a bit of extra spacing to the elements. So let's start with a div, and I'm going to give this a few classes. First of all, I'll say BG primer, just to give this a background color, and we'll come back to the classes in a second. Then I'm going to say small margin and padding. So the way we add margin and padding is by using very simple classes. The margin we just say M and then hyphen whatever strength we want to use, and that strength can be 1 to 5. So if I say 1, then it's a small margin. If I say 5, it's a large margin. So let me say M1 first of all, and if I go over here you can see this very small space around this blue box. If I inspect the element, we can see down here the margin is 0.25 rems, so that is the M1 class. Now if I change this to M2, we're going to see this increase. Let me show you now. It's 0.5 rems, so it doubles that margin, and we can see that if I go to something like M5 and save this, then we can see it's got a much bigger margin. Now it's 3 rem. Alright, so it goes from 1 to 5. The same is true for the padding. Let's change this back to M1 and we'll do P-1 as well. And by the way, this applies margin and padding in all directions. Top right, bottom left. So if I save this now, we'll see the padding inside the blue box, and again that's 0.25 rems for P1. Alright, so let me duplicate this just so we can compare it to M5 and P5 as well. So let's do that, and in here we'll say large margin and padding. Save that, and we can see the difference between these two things. Alright then, so let's do some more examples. I'm going to do another div down here and give it a class again of BG-primary. And what I'm going to do is say margin in Y direction, padding in X direction. So remember, Y is the open down direction, X is the left and right direction. So what I want to do is only apply a margin in the Y direction, top and bottom. And to do that I can say MY and then the strength. So MY-1 would be a small margin top and bottom. Let's do something like 3, which is kind of the medium ground. And also I want to apply padding in the X direction, just going left and right, and to do that I can say PX- and then whatever strength, which is going to be 5. So if we save this and preview, we can see now we got a lot of padding left to right but no margin. But we do get the margin top and bottom. Alright, cool, so let's do one more example for this. I'm going to create div down here again. I'm going to give this a BG-primary color, and then inside I'll say margin and padding for each direction. So what if we want to apply padding and margin to each direction separately? For example, I might only want to apply a margin top, or it could be that the margin top is different from the margin bottom and the margin right. Well, all we do is use a series of different classes for margin top. It would be MT and then hyphen the strength, for example 3 for margin bottom, MB-4 for the strength, and then if we want it to the left and right we don't say ML or MR, instead we say MS. which is margin start for the left, and we could apply something to that, or ME for margin end, which is to the right, and we could apply strength to that. I'm not going to do that, I'm going to apply that to the padding instead. So I'll say PS for padding start, and that's going to be 5, and then I'll say PT for padding top, which is going to be 4 PE, which is the end to the right 2, and then PB, which is the bottom, will just say 1. Alright, so now if we save this, we can see that the padding and the margin is going to be different in each direction. In fact, let's do margin start as well as 5, and we'll say margin end as 1 just to apply margin on the left and right. That's different as well. We have a tiny margin over here on the right, and then big margin on the left. So these are really useful utility classes for adding margin and padding to any element. Alright then, so let's move on to borders. So then I'm going to come down here and do a div with a class of margin-3, so all directions, just to give this div some space around it, and also p-3 to give it some space inside, and also I'm going to give it a class of border, and we'll just say defaults border for the text. So if we save this, we can see now we get this like gray border around this div, so that's just by applying this one class right here, we get that little border. We can also customize this, so I could say div, and then again we'll say m-3, also p-3. To apply the margin and padding, then I just want to apply border to the top, so border-top. This time, and also I want to apply border to the right as well, so I can say border end for that. So we'll say individual borders, and this could be as well border bottom and border start. We save this, we can see the top and the end over here. Alright then, so let's do another example. So div m-3, also p-3, and then this time border-start, have it at the start, and also I'm going to colorize this border-success, so I can use any of those theme colors to colorize the border as well. So inside here we'll say border success color art start, save it and preview over here, and we can see the green color just on the left for the border. Alright, so let's do some more examples down here. div.m-3.p-3, and then I'll say border start again, border danger this time, so it's the red color, and also I want to make it thicker, and I can do that. I can say border hyphen and then a strength 1 to 5. So 5 would be the thickest, 1 would be the thinnest. So let's do, oops, I've made a complete error right here. Let me get rid of all these and carry on with this. So border hyphen danger and then dot border hyphen 5 tab, that's better, and in here we'll say thicker border, save it and preview, and we can see that nice thick red border on the left. Alright, so let's make now maybe a rounded border. So we'll say div.m-3.p-3 again, and then this time I'm going to say rounded. Oops, rounded if I can spell it, then border-5. So what we're saying here is apply a border. This is a rounded elements and a thickness of 5, so pretty thick. So rounded corners right here. Save that and preview, and we can see rounded corners around the edge of the border. Let's do one more example, and I'm going to say div.m-3.p-3 rounded pill. We'll see the difference in a second. Border and then border-5 and rounded pill. Corners, save that, and if we take a look at this, you're going to notice it's much more rounded now, the left and right, so it makes it into that kind of pill shape, and that's this class right here, rounded pill. And by the way, that's not just for borders, you don't have to have a border. We could take this off and just give it a background color. For example, I could say BG-primer it like this, and it would still be rounded. It's just that we have the border gets that rounded effect as well. Okay. Alright, so that's borders. Let's take a look now at box shadow. So I'm going to say div, I'm also going to apply m-3p-3 to this, then I'm going to use a shadow-small, so that's a small box shadow, so elements with small box shadow like so. Save. it in preview you might just be able to see this box shadow. If you zoom in, I can see it right there. Let's do a larger one, so let me copy that, and I'm going to change this to LG and change this to large. Save that and preview, and we can see a much larger box shadow down here. It kind of sticks out from the page a bit more, and if we just take off that, it's kind of like a medium shadow. So if we preview that, we can see a medium shadow now. Alright, so that's about it for box shadow. Pretty simple. Next, I want to show you font weight now. We've already seen one of these for bold text, and it looks something like this: P hyphen bold. So font weight hyphen bold, and that would be bold text. I'm also going to do some other examples, so let me duplicate these a couple of times. So we've got bold, and then I'll say bolder, which is bolder than bold. Then we'll just have some normal text. So let me change this to normal, so no classes, just so I can compare it. I'll change this to bolder as well. Then after that we'll do a light variation, and we'll change this to light. Then we'll say font style instead of font weight, and this is going to be italic like so, and do one more, and we'll say font style italic, and also apply a font weight of light, so we can double up on those things. We can have font weight and font style. So let's change these italic, and then down here italic light text. Alright, so let's preview. Scroll down here, bold text, bolder text, normal, light, italic, and italic light. So I know that might have been a bit boring, but I just wanted to show you all of these different utility classes available to us that we can add to elements to apply these different styles, and they are really useful when we want to customize the look of the components a bit more. And like I said, there are a lot more utility classes available. I've just kind of scratched the surface, so definitely check out all of these utility classes in these different sections, and we will probably be using more of them as we go forward through the rest of this course.